Now the heartbeat of heaven, let us hear and let it rain.
So the reason why we have all of you here tonight is that on my desk I have for each of you a check for $10,000! Yeah! Oh, y'all ain't got no face! Y'all ain't got no face! They made balance, but do you still have it? They made balance! Where is it? Right. Somewhere over there. Let me just see. Right.
Alex, are you sitting on it?
Right. You get a check. Of what we do before I became a pastor. Many of you know that I would be out in the streets marching. I was on the covers of the newspapers and whatnot. I always said I feel like I was a voice for the perceived underdog. And who wasn't better, that voice for the perceived underdog, than Jesus Christ. So as we progress and go to the next level, and what we're doing as a church, we got to remember the community. So Servolution, all that is creating a revolution, starting a revolution through serving. So our motto is that the Finisher Church Servolution is us impacting our community through serving, through volunteering. In some way or another, you play a role in where we're getting ready to go in our church, and really at this stage we are getting organized. You know, oftentimes I look back and I'm like, shucks, only if we had gotten organized sooner. Gosh, geez, you know, perhaps more people could have gotten saved. And y'all are getting real serious right now. Please don't make me cry on my anniversary, all right? I know. Because y'all getting serious. I talked to him last week, and he called, and he's on my birthday. He said, well, do y'all have a theme for what you guys are about to do? And I was like, well, not really. I said, but I guess that it's going to be what we sang the past 2 weeks of service. Ain't no stopping us now. And he got so excited. He started flipping out. He said, I'm going to have to preach that in my church this Sunday. I was like, well, try it at your church first, then it was good. Preach our anniversary. But when you look at the words of that song, that is so us, you know? And I'm going to try not to cry, but when I look around at this room and see where we've come from, Earl put something on Facebook earlier, and what I was doing yesterday and today, I was looking at some of the pictures from our first service. And I started to remember, you know, what I was feeling, what I was thinking. If I cry, make sure y'all cry too. All right, and what I was feeling, what I was experiencing, and what was going through my head. You know, when we first opened, we were afraid that nobody was going to come, and hardly nobody did. But, you know, and then when we just thinking about the favor that God showed us. At that first service, we still really, for the most part, had no concrete idea when we were going to have our second service. And for those of you who haven't heard this story in orientation, we have been looking all summer long for a place to open up our church. If you haven't heard this story, that at our first service, we didn't really know concretely where we were going to have our second service. I heard of a church who was having a service at Montco High School, and they moved over to the American Red Cross building. And so I reached out to the American Red Cross building weeks before we were going to open up, to the executive director, and said, listen, we're a new church, we're looking for a place to have service, we're going to need a space the first weekend in September. And she said, well, okay, there is a church that is currently having service here, so you have to do it another day. So I said, okay, well, maybe we'll just be one of those churches that have service on Saturday night. And she said, okay, you guys are set to have on Saturday night. So a week went by, and we're getting closer and closer to paying too much money to rent this other place for our first service. And then God said, go back to that church website. So I didn't know why. It's not like I thought anything was going to change, but God said, go back to that church website and just take a look. Went back to that church website, took a look, and it said that that church that had been having service at the American Red Cross building, that their last service at the Red Cross building was the previous week, and therefore now making the building available to us. So when the executive director of the American Red Cross called, and she sent me an email, actually she called over the phone and said, okay, you guys are all set, you're going to start service next Saturday at, on Saturday evenings. And again, that's not really what was on my heart to do on Saturday evenings, and granted, that could have been the easier thing to do. We probably could have had more people kind of on Saturday night, but that wasn't what God wanted us to do. And so with what the executive director told me was that it wasn't available, but I had to boldly let her know And I said, actually, it is available. I said, so from what I understand, that we're able to have our service at your building on Sunday mornings. And she was all taken aback. She said, well, that's not true. I said, yeah. I went to their website, and from what I'm seeing, that this church, they're no longer having service, so they moved into their own building. It took her about 20 minutes to check and call back and say, wow. So yeah, she said, yep, you guys are set to go. So again, that same favor that God showed us then is the same favor that's going to take us to this next level. And when, like I was saying, when I look back at the early days when we didn't have a lot, we didn't have a lot of people, we didn't have a lot of resources, and when I think about how we could have gotten organized and should have gotten organized and things that we should have been doing our first year we didn't do, but then I hear God say, you know, but this is all what I needed you to experience. Because even sometimes the chaos in your life, it can be a holy thing. It can be God used. God can use chaos. Yes. And, you know, in certain things that we've experienced because of our chaos, guess what? I'm able to coach pastors who are far older than me, whose churches have been around double than us. You know, so God was able to use our chaos. So I look back now and I say, like David, it was good for me that I had been afflicted. So I say for Finisher Church, it was good for us that we experienced different things that we experienced. Howsoever, now that, you know, they say when you know better, you do better. That's right. We's a know better now. That's all right. So, and because where God is taking us, we've got to make sure that
open the floodgates of heaven and let